This show is part of One Place, a daily network of focused briefings across the stories people follow most.
Welcome to today's audio roundup. I'm here with some of the biggest developments in finance, energy, and the human side of entrepreneurship. We've got a lot to cover today, so let's jump right in with a quick look at what's on the agenda.
Metro Bank is celebrating a major return to profit after a grueling period of cost-cutting and restructuring.
The engineering giant Wood Group is facing a £13 million fine over inaccurate financial reporting.
The debate over the North Sea windfall tax is reaching a boiling point as industry leaders and unions call for reform.
Europe's tourism commissioner is warning that climate change is already causing irreversible damage to major travel destinations.
Scotland's First Minister is making a forceful case for scrapping energy levies to protect jobs and investment.
A top Accor executive warns that an over-reliance on AI could strip the soul out of the hospitality industry.
We'll look at 20 common items you're probably recycling wrong and how to fix your habits.
A boutique owner shares the surprising benefits of opening a shop right beneath a senior living community.
We explore the unique challenges and rewards of starting a business with your own parents.
And we'll wrap up with the story of a small business that's modernizing the 2,000-year-old tourniquet to save lives.
Let's start with some good news for the UK banking sector.
Metro Bank has officially bounced back into the black. After a very difficult couple of years, the London-based lender reported a pre-tax profit of £87.2 million for 2025. To put that in perspective, they were looking at a loss of over $212 million just a year earlier.
That is a massive swing. How did they pull it off? It sounds like they had to get pretty aggressive with their expenses.
Exactly. It was a major turnaround strategy that started back in 2023. They cut costs by 7% over the year, which actually beat their own expectations. But it wasn't without pain. They've cut more than 1,000 roles and scrapped their famous 7-day-a-week opening hours. That was once their big selling point, remember?
I do. They were the challenger that was always open. But the CEO, Dan Frumkin, says they're shifting focus now. They are moving more toward corporate, SME, and specialist lending. In fact, loans in those areas jumped 56%. It seems they are trying to find a more sustainable niche than just high street retail.
Despite those branch hour cuts, they still claim they are committed to physical locations. They've signed leases for new sites in Newcastle and Leeds, with a goal of growing to 120 locations. So, it's a leaner Metro Bank, but one that's finally finding its footing.
While Metro Bank is finding its way back, another major UK firm is dealing with a significant regulatory setback.
Yes, Wood Group has been hit with a £13 million fine by the Financial Conduct Authority. The issue is misleading information in their financial reports from 2023 and the first half of 2024. The regulator basically said the firm failed to take reasonable care to ensure their announcements weren't false or misleading.
This has been a long time coming. Their shares were actually suspended last year because they had to delay updates while they restated their figures. An independent review by Deloitte even found material weaknesses in the company's financial culture, specifically within its projects business unit.
The fallout was brutal for shareholders. The share price plunged 85% between late 2024 and mid-2025, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. The company was sold to a Dubai-based firm called Sidara for £216 million. The deal is expected to close on March 10th, now that Wood Group has met the regulatory conditions.
It's a cautionary tale for listed companies. The FCA is clearly trying to show they can move faster on enforcement, concluding this investigation in just 9 months. Accuracy isn't just a suggestion. It's the bedrock of investor trust.
Now let's shift to the political arena, where the future of the North Sea is being fiercely debated.
The Energy Profits Levy, or the Windfall tax, is causing a lot of friction for Chancellor Rachel Reeves. Interestingly, it's not just the industry complaining. Gary Smith, the General Secretary of the GMB Union, is calling for the tax to be scrapped or reformed. He argues that decarbonizing via deindustrializing is just going to cost jobs and push voters to the right.
It's a complex issue because the tax rate is currently at 78%. Industry leaders say that's just not internationally competitive. But Reeves is in a tight spot. With the crisis in the Middle East causing oil and gas prices to spike again, it's politically very difficult to lower a windfall tax when companies might be about to see another windfall.
Right, but the counterargument is about energy security. If we don't produce it domestically, we import it, often with a higher carbon footprint because of the transport involved. Greg Jackson from Octopus Energy made a good point. While we're still dependent on gas, Why not get it from the North Sea so British companies pay the tax here?
Reeves has a potential solution in her pocket: the oil and gas price mechanism. It would replace the current levy with charges that only kick in when prices hit certain thresholds, like $90 a barrel. But for now, the industry is left with a lot of uncertainty, and that's usually the enemy of investment.
And while we're on the subject of environmental impact, let's look at how the changing climate is affecting where we go on vacation.
This is a sobering warning from the EU's tourism commissioner, Apostolos Tzitzikostas. He told the ITB Berlin Travel Trade Show that climate change is no longer a future threat. It's already damaging major European destinations. We're talking about rising sea levels hitting coastal resorts and a lack of snow or biodiversity loss in mountain regions.
It's a direct threat to the business model of entire regions. If the environment isn't healthy or attractive, the tourists simply won't come. We're seeing more extreme weather events, flooding, and heat waves that are literally reshaping the travel map. People are starting to change where they travel, and perhaps more importantly, when they travel to avoid the most extreme conditions.
The message to the industry was blunt. Sustainability isn't a niche anymore. It's a survival requirement for the tourism sector.
The political pressure on energy policy isn't just coming from Westminster, though. It's a major topic in Scotland as well.
Scottish First Minister John Swinney is doubling down on his call for the UK government to scrap that windfall tax we were just talking about. He calls it utterly essential. His logic is that the current uncertainty in the Middle East makes domestic energy supply a material consideration that the Treasury can't ignore.
Swinney is particularly worried about the pace of job losses. He's saying the levy is hampering investment in the North Sea so much that employment is dropping way faster than they anticipated. It's a difficult balance for the Scottish government, trying to lead on green energy while also protecting the massive oil and gas workforce that currently exists.
It really highlights the tension in the just transition. How do you move to a green economy without leaving thousands of workers behind in the process? Swinney clearly thinks the current tax regime is doing more harm than good.
Shifting gears from energy politics to the technology that powers our service industries.
We've heard a lot about AI lately, but a top executive at Accor, Carol Lamouche, is sounding a note of caution for the hotel industry. She's worried that an over-reliance on AI could erode the human connection that hotels are built on. She calls hospitality a human connection industry and says we have to be careful not to over-standardize everything.
It's a fair point. AI is great for booking and answering basic questions. But if you replace every interaction with a chatbot or an automated system, you lose the personality of the brand. Lamouche's argument is that the relationship with the guest is what ultimately benefits the owners and the guest experience. If it feels like you're staying in a computer-generated box, the magic is gone.
It's about using AI to facilitate the experience, not to replace the person behind the front desk. Finding that balance is going to be the big challenge for travel companies over the next few years.
Speaking of things we do every day, there's a lot we might be getting wrong when it comes to sustainability in our own homes.
This is a big one. It turns out many of us are wish cycling, tossing things into the blue bin hoping they're recyclable when they actually aren't. In the US, the EPA estimates the contamination rate for recycling is about 25%. That's a huge number, and it can actually damage the sorting machines or ruin entire batches of recyclable material.
I was surprised by some of the items on this list. For example, receipts. Most of us think they're just paper, but they're actually printed on thermal paper that contains chemicals like BPA or BPS. If you recycle them, those chemicals can contaminate the wastewater or the new paper being created. They should go straight in the trash.
And what about coffee pods? Even the ones made of recyclable plastic are often too small for the sorting machines. Anything smaller than 2 inches usually just falls through the holes in the system and ends up in the landfill anyway. Same goes for loose plastic bottle tops. You're often better off leaving them on the bottle, depending on your local rules.
The pizza box is another classic mistake. Cardboard is recyclable, but greasy cheese-covered cardboard is not. If the bottom of the box is soaked in oil, you have to tear that part off and only recycle the clean lid. And don't even get me started on plastic bags. They get wrapped around the sorting rollers like hair in a vacuum brush and can shut down an entire facility.
The best advice is to check with your specific municipality. There are literally thousands of different standards across the country, and what works in Seattle might be illegal in New York City, especially for things like batteries.
From global systems back to the local level, sometimes business is about more than just the bottom line. It's about the people next door.
I loved this story about the Cindy Jane Boutique. The owner, Cindy, opened her shop in a historic building without realizing it was right beneath a senior living community. She was terrified at first, imagining noise complaints and awkward vibes. But the exact opposite happened.
It turned into this beautiful intergenerational hub. The seniors started coming down to sit on her window bench, not necessarily to shop, but just to talk. They shared stories about the building's history. It was built in 1912 by a former Chicago Cubs player and once housed a pharmacy with a soda fountain. Some of the residents actually remember visiting that soda fountain decades ago.
It's a great reminder that retail can still be a community space. Cindy even mentioned how her perspective on fashion changed after seeing an 80-year-old resident buy a satin slip dress to wear to bed. It's the same item a 20-year-old might wear out to a club, just in a different context. It really bridged that generational gap for her.
That sense of family and connection is actually at the heart of our next story too, though with a slightly different dynamic.
This is about Cornelia Issa, who started a company called the Burning Stones. With her parents, they make these beautiful oil candles out of crystals. It's a great success story, but she's very honest about the challenges. When you're 41 and your business partners are your parents, the parent-child dynamic doesn't just disappear.
Right. They had some disagreements about spending. Her parents wanted to be more frugal and play it safe, while she wanted to invest in high-end photography and marketing. She had to learn how to listen to their entrepreneurial wisdom, but still make the final call as the head of the LLC without anyone taking it personally.
But the payoff has been huge. She says she sees her parents for hours on end now, rather than just in short bursts. It's given her parents a new sense of purpose and pride. It's a reminder that while working with family is hard, there's nobody you can trust more to have your back.
Finally, let's look at a business that's modernizing a tool that's been around for millennia to solve a very modern problem.
Hannah Herbst, the CEO of Golden Hour Medical, has developed something called Auto TQ. It's an automatic tourniquet system. Now, tourniquets have been around for 2,000 years, but they're usually designed for professionals. If a bystander tries to use one in an emergency, they often struggle because of the pressure and the complexity.
The golden hour in the name refers to those critical moments right after an injury. If someone is bleeding out, you have seconds, not minutes, to act. Auto TQ uses audiovisual guides to walk a complete amateur through the process. Their research showed that 92% of people who tried it were able to apply it correctly on their first try after just a 30-second demo.
It's being compared to the automated external defibrillator, or AED model. We see those everywhere now in airports and gyms. The goal is to make these automatic tourniquets just as common in schools, construction sites, and sports venues. It's a powerful example of how a small team of 10 people can take an ancient concept and use technology to save lives.
That's all for today's roundup. From the high-stakes world of banking and energy taxes to the local impact of small businesses and medical breakthroughs, it's clear that innovation and community are driving the conversation.
Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this briefing, make sure to follow the show so you never miss our daily updates. We'll be back tomorrow with more stories that matter. Until then, stay informed and have a great day.